Welcome, folks. I am Jaby Koay, joined by ACHARA KIRK.
Hey, guys.
This is our review catch-up for films we haven't been doing lately, that we have been watching, we just haven't gotten around to reviewing because we've been so crazy busy with a lot of life stuff. So we're gonna go over Sonic, Birds of Prey, Parasite, and Ipman 4. We're gonna start with Ipman 4 because that's the most requested one by everybody on this channel. Just kidding. This will be a super short one. ACHARA caught up with all the Ip Man films.
Yes.
Ip Man seemed to be like your new favorite movie after Rocky, it seemed like.
Yeah, because it's so freaking good and Donnie Yen is amazing and I loved the emotional connection. I think I kind of like a little bit of melodrama sometimes because Ip Man 3, I read a review and someone was like, oh, it was a little bit too melodramatic, and I thought it wasn't, but I think it's also because I'm Asian and I grew up with a lot of melodrama, so if something makes me cry, I'm like, yes, yeah. I'm here for it.
Yeah, all four Ip Man movies moved me on some level. The thing is, they get progressively less movie-like and just become kind of goofy and weird.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a kung fu movie in that way, where kung fu movies didn't really have much of a story beyond a very simple basic premise like, you killed my father, I'm gonna get you. And then like all the whole movie's about that, right? And training to do that. In, what was it? There was several Jackie Chan films where it's like, oh, you killed my master, now I gotta train to kill you.
Right.
You know, and so.
Classic.
The classic premise, Kung Fu Cinema, Shaw Brothers stuff.
Yeah.
But Ip Man 1 had something special about it, and Ip Man 2 was cool, but like it was just sort of this weird plot where you didn't know who the bad guy was until halfway into the movie.
Yeah.
It was almost like Twilight or something in that regard, where the bad guy's introduced late. He's a good bad guy, he's very formidable, and then I can't even remember Ip Man 3 beyond Mike Tyson. Like, I don't remember who the bad guy was after Mike Tyson, but I remember enjoying the film overall.
Yeah.
And then
the Mike Tyson stuff was a little bit weird.
It was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But I still remember enjoying it. Like, overall, they're all fun movies. But Ip Man 4, I think, was my least favorite.
Agreed.
Because it was less focused on Ip Man and trying to do just way too many different things all over the place. And so the feeling I walked out with was, that was a nice fight between Donnie Yen and Scott Adkins. That was cool. But outside of that, I had a lot of questions.
Yes.
And I wondered why the plot was like the way it was. So it was a messy plot, but I still think it's worthwhile. It's worth watching the entire thing all the way through. Like, it's actually, it was fun to like catch up and like relive all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like rewatching it, I'm like, these are all kind of silly movies, except for Ip Man 1. Ip Man 1 like had the most heart. And Ip Man 4, while it moved me, it was like the least cohesive plot.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we left that film, I kind of was like, oh, well, that was cool for the reasons that you said, but if they hadn't done an Ip Man 4, it would have been just fine.
Yeah.
We didn't need that.
There was this whole thing in Ip Man 4 where this white lady gets hysterical, loses her shit because her daughter who's a bully ends up getting a scratch on her face or something.
Yeah.
And she calls up her husband like, when are you coming home? When are you coming home? In a week, you gotta come home. And then a week passes by and she's got the exact same outfit on. Her daughter's in the exact same position on the couch with no healing whatsoever. Like, there was just some weird like production stuff. The Caucasian actors were kind of horrible, except for Scott Adkins, who was just way over the top. Like,
yeah, but loving it.
Yeah, he was having a good time. But like, it's all worth it in the end for that fight scene between them.
Yeah.
It's just the Bruce Lee stuff sort of distract the plot a little bit. I'm like, wait, it wasn't like the most well integrated. It was just sort of there, you know?
Right.
But anyway, yes, Ip Man 4, I still recommend it. Very silly, fun.
Fun, yes.
Next we'll go over Parasite. So,
okay.
Parasite, obviously, you most of you know, everyone knows, it won Best Picture.
Yeah.
And I honestly was a little disappointed that it won Best Picture. Not because I didn't like the movie, but because I really wanted 1917 to win.
Right, yeah.
Now, I'm all for diversity, you know, having, you know, minorities and whatever being recognized and whatnot, but I still feel like 1917 was the better film between the two. Me personally. I know there's a lot of people who disagree, but I feel like a lot of people who voted for Parasite had just never seen a Korean movie before.
Yes.
That's my honest feeling, because we've watched, just between the two of us, we've watched a lot of Korean movies. Mm-hmm. On my own, I've watched other Korean movies. They're full of stories like that. That's very commonplace. Mm-hmm. I was even talking to a Korean woman at the party that I took you to the other night. I voiced that. She's like, yeah, exactly. Like, there's so many Korean movies that already do that. Like, what? I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's wonderful that they're recognized by the Academy, and now hopefully more people are gonna turn to Korean cinema for some interesting storytelling, for some interesting movies. And if you haven't watched more Korean Korean movies, you really should.
Right.
You can make a start and watch the Parasite director's previous movies, especially The Host.
Right. That's
right?
what I was gonna say. Is I thought The Host was a much better movie. I mean, it's a different genre. You're not dealing with just people. That's a monster movie, but I thought it was so much more compelling, so much more engaging, so much more heart. I think teared up when I was watching The Host both times. Like it moved me each time that I watched it. Whereas this, I was like, well, that gave me thoughts.
It certainly does, and I think, it's a very good story, and a lot of the twists and turns, I was literally going, what the F in the movie? Like, did this just happen? Did they really go there? And that was interesting.
The acting was amazing.
Yeah, very good.
I thought the acting was great. Everyone was very well chosen, and it did have interesting plot twists where I was like, I didn't know what was coming next.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it for those of you who haven't watched it yet. So it definitely has a very intriguing plot. I don't feel like it stuck the landing for me. It just sort of got haywire at the end in a way that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because things were not indicated enough along the way to justify what happens in the final part of the second act before going into the conclusion of the film.
Right.
And so that's what it is for me. Like, I enjoyed it overall. I thought it was a very well-made film, and the acting was great. Like I said, the music was powerful. The filmmaking in general was really well executed. But for me, it's just like, I don't know that I want to watch that again. I don't know that I would want to revisit that. I don't know that it moved me enough where I'd want to, go and talk to everybody about it like it's been doing for all of white Hollywood. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way whatsoever. I just mean that it seems like everyone I talk to who's super excited about the movie is either Korean and proud, like, oh, finally people are recognizing it.
As you should be, yeah.
Or they're white and they've never seen a Korean movie before. And they just, like, that's literally been my experience where I was on set with someone and he's like, oh my God, everything he's describing, I'm like, that's actually very commonplace in Korean movies, dude. Like, just go watch more Korean films.
You want surprises, you want changes in tone, you want all that fun stuff, just watch more Korean films, and I guarantee you're gonna have a blast.
All right, and so on the flip side of that, just to like kind of balance it out so you understand where I'm coming from, like, all of my black friends have watched tons of Asian movies. So I feel like Parasite for them is like, yeah, that's cool. Like, they have been exposed to that a lot. So not to say that white people don't watch Asian movies, but I'm just saying the ones that I've encountered lately I just feel like I've dug myself a weird hole. But the ones I've encountered lately have just never seen Korean cinema. So yeah, do yourself a favor, watch more Korean cinema. One that I think a lot of people have would recommend to start off with would be like Old Boy.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great film as well, and I really want to watch other stuff from that director too.
I will never watch Old Boy again. That ending is too much for me. Anyway.
Yeah, Lady Vengeance, that's another good one.
So, I wanted to mention two other films that moved me more than Parasite did was The Spy Gone North, which is a slow film, but it's slow in the same way that Parasite is slow. It just takes its time.
It's a slow burn, yeah.
Yeah, it's a slow burn. And Swing Kids.
That was really fun.
I thought that moved me way more than Parasite. Not that you have to make me cry to move me, but it's like I just felt more coming out of that movie. Like, it gave me more thoughts to deal with, and it gave me more emotions I had an emotional fart watching that movie. I'm just like, I'm just like, yay. So anyway, Birds of Prey, we'll talk about now.
Oh dear. Oh, shall I start then?
So, I have such mixed feelings about this movie. You could start, go ahead.
Yeah, so I will let you go into your mixed feelings when it's your turn. I left the theater feeling a little bit meh, blah. Yeah. I enjoyed it. I really liked Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I thought she did a good job. As I was watching it, I kind of felt like it was this quintessential girl breakup movie. The ones where you're completely broken down, you're not the person who you were before, and you spend this movie trying to build yourself back up, and it's girl power and all that. And I was like, cool, I know the beats of this movie, that's fine. There were some really fun fight scenes, fun fight choreography. I'm sure you're gonna get into your thoughts on that afterwards. It was a cool idea to bring all the girls together. However, at the end, I was just kind of disappointed because I wanted to know more about the other female characters. Sure. I just felt like it was very surface when it came to them. And the movie is called Birds of Prey, the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn, right? And I felt like a lot of it was focused on Harley Quinn and not enough was focused on the Birds of Prey. And then at the end, they're like, and then they became the Birds of Prey. And I'm like, But this whole movie, I didn't really know that much about them. I want to know more.
I think that from a box office standpoint, they did themselves a disservice by making this a rated R film. They tried to edgelord for some reason. I mean, they saw what happened with Deadpool, and I think they really wanted to replicate that. If you look at the structure, the plot structure of Deadpool and the plot structure of Birds of Prey, it looks very, very close. If anything, Birds of Prey took what Deadpool did and just added cocaine to make it like even crazier, right? I mean that both from the film itself and like the plot structure is just kind of insane. It's just going all over the place, which I'm not against. I'm not opposed to. It just felt like Deadpool. Like I'm watching it and the craziness of it, the breaking the fourth wall and all that stuff, the way it was just handling itself, I'm like, this is literally like Harley Quinn Deadpool style. I meant what I said. I second guessed myself for a second there. But anyway, so there's that. I didn't feel this compulsion when they first announced the Harley Quinn film. I didn't feel the need for it to be a rated R film and be a hard R and be super violent and super F-bomby. Like, I wasn't looking for that. I don't mind it if that's the film. If you feel like that's the way you gotta tell that story, then so be it. But I feel like that hurt their ticket sales. That's not even an opinion like of mine. I'm just saying like that's a theory. So what I liked were some of the things you said. I liked the fight scenes. I liked Margot Robbie. I thought I loved what's her face, the African American chick. I can't remember her name right now. She is gorgeous and she did a fantastic job. For me, she stole the show. Like she was amazing. My inherent issue with it, before I get into that, let me say I love the fight scenes. I mean, the fight scenes were a little bit interesting. They're a little bit funny in the way they were staged. I mean, cops have guns, they're not using guns, as was pointed out by Ryan George in Pitch Meeting. The bad guys are often coming at them one at a time, so it's just a little bit funny in the staging.
I felt a little too choreographed.
Yes. That was the thought that I had when I watched it, was like, these are cool ideas, but it feels like rehearsal. The big thing for me, and it's a very subtle thing, is that the villains, or the bad guys, the henchmen, they weren't making eye contact with Harley Quinn. It was like they were going in and they were sort of dancing. I feel like in order for it to feel personal, you have to make eye contact with who you're fighting. And it seemed like they rarely did that. It was just sort of, I'm gonna go in and take a hit. I'm gonna go in and take a hit. Pop, 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 I'm gonna take a hit now. And I often could see the setup, as my stunt coordinator friend who works a lot says, a lot of them had egg on their face. It's just like you could see the prep, you could see them waiting around, and it was a little bit frustrating for me as someone who loves fight scenes, who has made fight scenes. Like I could just see where it falls apart at the seams, right?
Right.
But overall, great ideas. Compared to the vast majority of fight scenes in American cinema, they did actually a pretty good job. Finally, where do I take issue with this film is that the reason I had mixed feelings is because it felt like a man-bashing film.
Yeah.
If you look at the female characters and the male characters in the film, there is not one good man in this movie, save for the person that saved Huntress. And he's on screen for all of 10 seconds, right? There's one bad woman in the movie. She's on screen for all of 10 seconds. She gets killed like that. Outside of those two characters, all the women are protagonists, they're good. Even Harley Quinn, who is an anti-hero, she's still good. At the end of the day, you're rooting for her because she's the good one, right? The women, even though they're not the greatest stand-up citizens, right? They're still good on the spectrum of people in the film.
Well, there are heroes or are heroines, if you were,
Right, and so ultimately what I'm getting at is if you look at every single guy in this movie, sorry my monitor's died. If you look at every single guy in this movie, all of them are bad, crooked, messed up. Every single one. Even the one you thought was there for Harley Quinn turns out to be a jerk who's just out for himself. Not one dude is good in this movie. It's just like, it sort of blew my mind, and it's like it wouldn't be a big deal to me if not for the fact that it feels like it's trying to send a message of some kind. Like, we girls gotta stick together because all men are bad, is what it felt like it was saying.
Right.
And
we had a lot of debate about this, didn't we, after the movie? And I think now that I've had time to really let it sit with me, I'm starting to see what you're talking about. Although initially when I first watched it, I didn't even pick up on that, and it may just be because I'm a woman and I'm like, yay,
well,
cool.
I a little bird told me that at one of the screenings, one of the private cast and crew screenings for Birds of Prey, all the girls were cheering. All the girls were having a great time. But it's not a fair barometer because it was a cast and crew screening.
Well, yeah, because everyone worked on it.
Yeah,
so,
but still, like, all the women were like cheering and whatnot, and the guys were more like, okay,
Yeah, but I guess also it's not often that women get these movies where
I'm fine with, so okay,
Yeah.
let me clear that up.
Yeah.
I'm fine with a female, I love Wonder Woman, for instance. Like, I am so on board for strong female characters. That's not my issue here. I love that idea. It's just that more and more these days you're seeing these movies, okay, Joker's a great case in point, where it's all about mental health. These movies are trying to send a message now, right? Whereas comic book movies used to just be comic book movies. Now there's this extra layer, this extra, what do you call it, political aspect to it, this social dialogue that it's trying to throw in there. Now when you're doing that and then you're man bashing at the same time, it's just like, that's not a good way to get me on board. I'd rather watch Wonder Woman like 8 times, 10 times again than watch Birds of Prey ever again, you know?
No, and I definitely see that. And wasn't it, were you watching a Grace Randolph video on that, where she mentioned that the movies that are actually successful with the female superheroes are the ones where they have male characters who support the hero as well. And so I feel like
She did say that.
Yeah, that is a better message overall, to be like, okay, so the women are taking lead on this,
Yeah.
but we're gonna have the dudes and the guys are gonna support us, and we're gonna be in this together. And overall, I think that is better.
Just as a thought experiment, switch the sexes. Make all the men in this movie women and all the women in this movie men, and then see how you feel if you don't understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
There's a big reason why the majority of this Birds of Prey conversation has been about this, is because it just like it didn't sit well with me, and I tried to get over it. I'm like, it's just a movie. Like, no one else is bitching about this. Like, it's clearly this is a me issue. But then I started talking to some people who are liberal, and they're like, yeah, I have that same issue too. Like, I don't know why the movie. It's so. My brother loved the film. He had a great time. So
I guess it just depends how you look at it as well, because I didn't even register that until you told that to me, and I was like, oh, because I was just kind of enjoying the adventure, the action and stuff, and I mean, I had my issues with it, which I already explained to you guys, but I didn't even register the thing that you said until you were like, yeah, did you notice that all the guys were really bad in that movie and there wasn't a single nice guy? And I racked my brain and I found one, but otherwise, I was like, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So that aside, apparently there's a lot of issues that comic book lovers have with the film as well, where they sort of messed up I mean, there is that weird aspect where Canary, is that her name?
Black Canary.
She's got this superpower that she just holds on to the entire movie.
I was waiting for that, like, for so long, because I know the character from when we played Injustice, right?
Yeah.
And she's awesome, one of my favorite characters to play. But I'm like, dude, you have this superpower. Why wait so long?
So
and then pass out after you use it.
Ewan McGregor played a good villain. I thought he did a pretty good job. There were some times where it's over the top. I mean, the movie's over the top, so.
Yeah.
But
it's campy,
there were moments where it was just a little bit over the top. The one scene in particular was his Daniel Day-Lewis "There Will Be Blood" moment, where he goes, "That's my stuff," and it's just like, it was just a bit much. And that was the moment that clued me in that, okay, he's pushing it a little hard, but in general, he did a pretty good job, and I liked him more as a villain than. Yeah, I just liked him as I don't want to compare him. I just liked him as a villain. So overall, he was fun. Anyway, last thing is Sonic, and this will be super short. I turned to ACHARA at the end of the film and I said, it makes me sad that this is the best video game movie we have so far. So it's like bittersweet, because this is next to Mortal Kombat, right? It's like, it's goofy and weird, but it's good. Like,
I don't know about good. Well, it's fun.
If you had fun, it's good.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, there were some things I took issue with, but overall, I thought it was a really fun movie, and I think it's great if you've got kids.
Yeah.
If you've got kids, they're gonna love the crap out of this movie.
Yes.
It's like so goofy and crazy.
Jim Carrey really pushes it, and I didn't mind that. We watched it with a friend of mine, and I'm not gonna name who that friend is in case that friend doesn't want to be named in this review. But that friend did not like Jim Carrey at all. That friend. was very against Jim Carrey's performance, because they thought it was just way over the top. It was just too much. It was aggravating. Like, it was grating for that friend, right? But for me, I'm like, I grew up with Jim Carrey, and that's what I felt like. It was like a walk back through time.
Okay.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like a kid again watching, because he was literally doing Ace Ventura, The Mask, that kind of behavior that I grew up watching. Yes, he didn't fit the physical role, but personality-wise, I feel like he hit it, and I don't think there's any other actor out there that could have hit that kind of energy for this movie. I thought Jim Carrey was perfect in that regard. I just wish the director reined him in a little bit, or the editor reined him in a little bit, because it was just sort of like, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it did kind of go a bit over the top, but it's fine.
Sonic's voice I thought was fine.
I liked it.
I much prefer, and might just be because I grew up with it, but like I much prefer Sonic's voice from the Radical cartoon. There was 2 cartoons that came out when I was a kid. There was like the goofy one and then the cool Sonic one. Sonic! You know, that we did the whole song. Anyway.
The Hedgehog.
Yeah, I like that Sonic voice, but this was so long ago that maybe if I were to watch it again now, I'd feel differently. But like, I would just wish they got those guys again. One of those Sonics, but he was fine. And what's his name was good?
James Marsden?
James Marsden was good.
See,
Yeah.
I was having slight issues with some of the acting, and I don't know if it's just because it was mostly their acting
Hold on, let me interrupt you for a second. The acting in general in this film was very cardboard.
Yes,
but he did a good job with that.
It was like an after-school special.
Yes, but he did a good job within that. Like, he knew what he was doing.
Fair enough. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll give that to you. But that was one of the things that I had an issue with was just that a lot of the acting, when they were having dialogue with each other, felt like an after-school special. But when they were doing one-liners, it was brilliant. There were so many great one-liners that got like huge laughs and chuckles, and so that's why I enjoyed it. It was just a fun romp all around.
Yeah, this is not a movie I would ever revisit. This is like, it's pretty dumb, but it's good in that it entertains you. It's not grading the way so many video game-based movies can be. It's like, it's actually enjoyable. It felt like Shanghai Nights to me. I got frustrated watching Shanghai Nights because literally in the middle of the movie, Jackie Chan goes, "Why are we wasting time?" And I go, yeah, why are you wasting time? Because like Owen Wilson just wants to go hang out and do these like random things. It's like, just get to the fight with Donnie Yen. It was the same thing here where, you know, they have to fill in 90 minutes of runtime, and so they just spend time doing random stuff because Sonic's a kid, and then eventually it gets to the point of the movie. It's just a fun adventure thing, and you know, you sort of know that going into it. I wish this wasn't the story. Ultimately, I wish that it just stayed in Sonic's world. That looks way more interesting to me, and I'm really hoping the sequel gets us there, because there's gonna be a sequel. This movie's killing it at the box office.
The after credit scene is teasing a little
That friend
something.
was like, I want to go watch Sonic. I said, okay, and then I look up the shows, and every single one was sold out.
Yeah.
I had to sit near the front to get decent seats.
And just so you know, Jaby doesn't like to sit near the front.
I don't.
No.
But overall, I enjoyed it. I don't know that I would recommend it unless you're like, if you grew up with Sonic, I recommend it. If you got kids, or you are a kid, I recommend it.
100% go check it out.
But just know that this movie is like, it's just not great. It's just
silly fun.
It's silly fun. Yeah. But
grab a big tub of popcorn, go with your friends, have a soda, have a laugh, you know, that kind of thing.
I prefer Mortal Kombat between this and Sonic. But
I mean, also, that was during our childhood, right? So I think it's always going to hold a special place in our hearts. I love that movie.
They're both goofy movies. I mean, if you go back and watch Mortal Kombat again, it's really goofy. But I think that I have a lot more that I can take from that film, even as a grown-up, than I can from Sonic.
Okay.
So Sonic is just like, it definitely has that after-school special. Just, you know, when Dude and his wife are sitting at the table, and it's like, honey. And you know, but like, it's just sort of that acting, but there were some good moments in there. Like, okay, just to give one of the jokes away, you know, you can shut this off if you don't want to hear it, but like, there's that moment he comes home and he's got, you know, he's getting the letter to go be a police officer in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
And she's got the cake, and it says, San Francisco sucks anyway, and she's like, oh, wrong cake. Like, just the idea that someone went through all that effort.
Yeah, to get 2 cakes.
To get 2 cakes. I like that cracked me up, and so.
No, there were a lot of good jokes. It was very enjoyable.
Yes. So anyway, there you go. That's our movie catch up for this video. And so thanks for Sam. I can't even. Bye. Peace out.